So my first observation I want to make is if you're in this room, you're brilliant. And what I mean by that is each of us has one or more passions in which we've become an expert. Now, my experience with this growing up meant that I spent a lot of time not being understood when I talked about what I loved. So I love solving and making puzzles, and I love the inner beauty of an algorithm. The problem is that generally when I start to explain the math to other people, their eyes glaze over. And I've had some pretty lonely times in my life. So I've come up with a solution for this, and that's to clone myself. Now, I don't mean using DNA because that's going to take too long. What I've learned is to share my passions with others in a way that excites them into becoming an expert like me. So for the last decade, I've been designing games and puzzles professionally with my partner, Rebecca Blue. And we take esoteric ideas and make them accessible to the mass market. And I like to share some of the lessons that we've learned with you. So step away from the edge. The place I find most interesting about my passion is the edge where I don't know the answers. But trying to start a conversation overlooking this cliff can be really frustrating for those who haven't spent the decades I have climbing this cliff. So this is one of our puzzle games. It's called Yacht Sugo. And with this puzzle, you'll take 16 letters, and you'll make a 4x4 grid that shows the letters you're going to use. And you're going to make a 4x4 grid using words even a fifth grader would know. Now here's the problem. These puzzles are really hard. We had a couple of parties. We had 5 parties in a row where we had people trying to solve the puzzle. It took the 5th party before somebody finally solved one of the puzzles. So the problem is that people, when they get too frustrated, they stop having fun. So we needed a way to make this puzzle more accessible to a wider range of people. One way we did this with Yacht Sugo was to come up with 3 levels of hints. Now this lets us scale the difficulty. And you can work up to the edge of that frustration level that's fun for you. I mean, I love being really frustrated with a puzzle, and then I'm not. It's kind of like when you scratch a cat. They love it, love it, love it. Yeah! You want to get a little bit of a hint. So what we're doing is we're making an offer. We're not forcing, but we're offering help. You can float in that delicious frustration for as long as you want, and when it stops being fun, crack open the next clue, and you get to keep going. And the key is, so we've got another level of clues, is that you get to control your own experience. You get to do the puzzle the way you want to. And there's the answer, and we won't give you a spoiler on that. So I've gone to great lengths to control my own puzzling experience. Now here's the disentanglement puzzle that got me hooked on this type of puzzle. Boy, did this one frustrate me. Now I look at it and laugh. In trying to solve it, I ended up decomposing the puzzle into 2 separate puzzles that I could solve. And then I created a reconfigurable disentanglement kit that I could use to solve tougher puzzles. And you can imagine it wasn't a far step to go from solving puzzles to starting to make them. Here's one of my first puzzles. Now there's many problems with making puzzles like this, and the first one that my partner Rebecca said was, "That's a mess, no one's going to want to play with that." Which brings us to, where are the lasers? Truth is, people love flashing lights. And a toy with lasers will attract more people than a toy without them. Magic is a perfect example of this. Once you've hooked someone with the wow, now they're more interested in the how did you do that? We needed to clean up our disentanglement kit to make it work. And basically we needed a hook so that we didn't have to explain what the hell it was. And here's what it became. Houdini. You pick a challenge, there's a set of challenge cards, and they show you how to tie Houdini up. Then you help him escape. The lasers here is that I can set it on a table and people say, "What's that?" And then they start working on a disentanglement puzzle without even knowing it. Which brings us to distill down to the essence. Remove everything that isn't necessary. In Houdini, all the rules are physically enforced. You can't pull Houdini through the ring, so I don't need to write that down. People are going to figure it out on their own. And when people figure things out on their own, they own it, and they embrace it. Next, you need to eliminate barriers to entry. Anyone with the disentanglement addiction, and you know it's an addiction, We know that it's an expensive passion and it's very time consuming. Puzzles cost between $10 and $20 each, and it's really difficult to tell how hard a puzzle is going to be before you buy it. Houdini fits 40 disentanglement puzzles in a single box. So for 20 bucks, you get the equivalent of hundreds of dollars of puzzles. That's a real low barrier to entry to get people interested in this sort of puzzle. Another lesson we learned is teach, don't tell. The 40 challenges in Houdini are designed to introduce the fundamentals, concepts of disentanglement puzzles. So one of our playtesters had never done disentanglements before, and he struggled with the first puzzle. It's a real simple one. It's the buttonhole puzzle. Well, it's simple to an expert, right? But once he understood how this worked, he was able to solve the next few puzzles in the set. And by the time he got through the stack of challenges, he was well on his way to becoming an expert. And he had developed a liking for these kinds of puzzles that before he had never touched because they were just too hard for him. And I'd like to thank thinkfund, the company who makes Houdini. They've done a great job with bringing our idea to life. They've also made it possible for you to have Houdini as our exchange gift. So you're each going to get your own. Thanks, Bill. We've also just released an escape the room experience that you can take home and play with your friends. I'm going to show you the prototype first. And when we started designing it, we thought, well, it's got to be for 8 people, and so let's imagine that there's 4 of me working on these puzzles in tandem, right? So I need about 8 hours of puzzle time for someone like me or someone like you. So we started off by building this star chart, and there's Starduco puzzles in the corner, and there's tangram constellations. Then you have to break into the 4 cabinets, find the 4 blueprints, build this awesome machine that uses a oh wait, I forgot about the power. We've got 4 power puzzles here that get really tough. And then you build a machine that has a zoetrope, and it transports you to another dimension, hopefully not the one with the giant octopus tentacle. Okay, so what happens? You got to somehow fit it in the box. When we sent this to thinkfund, they said, that's a lot of stuff. And the walkthrough with them alone took an hour and a half. That's not really going to work in the mass market. So it's not surprising that our initial feedback was this was way too much for the average person new to this type of experience, which comes to this lesson. Oh, it's got to fit in the box, which is where we are right now. There are lots of different boxes, though, right? There's the boxes of our expectations. There's the boxes of our capabilities. There's the box of our patience. And finally, there's especially the physical box that's going to hold the pieces. So just in case you're wondering, we did fit it in the box. And I do have to point out that this stage can take significantly more time than creating that idea in the first place. Boy, a group of, I think, 7 people working on this to get that huge table of stuff down to this experience. Now, to do this, we had to make it easy to love. As experts in our field, it's something we have to accept. We are no longer qualified to distinguish the line between hard and too hard. And hard can be scary for people who aren't experts. So make it easier than you think it has to be when sharing your passion with someone new. And then maybe you'll find another person who's fallen in love with one of your passions. I hope this helps you make your loves more accessible to the world. Thank you.